How can you become a translator without any experience? Coming up. Hello and welcome back to the Freelanceverse. I hope you're all doing well. It is Sunday morning, bright and early, and I'm here to answer some of you guys' questions as it's time for the next Q&A on the channel. If you missed any of the episode, I'm going to link the playlist up here and also at the end of the video so you can check back on previous Q&A videos. As always, I took most of these questions from these videos, so if you want to be featured in the next one, just ask your question down below. I have 6 questions prepared for you guys here. I'm going to show them on the screen and then answer them. Some are more elaborate, some are very practical and straightforward. I think we will manage to get through all the 6 questions. Thanks to all the 6 subscribers who asked these questions. I'm very grateful to get them. The first one is from Imain Asa 906. She says, I'm from an Arabic country and I can speak Arabic, English, French and Spanish. My question is the Arabic language in demand and needed because I want to start working online, but I still don't know how to start? Is Arabic in demand? Yes, most definitely. Arabic is a huge language that is very in demand in the language industry. I recently made a video about all the languages most in demand. You can click here if you're interested. Arabic is on that list. It is spoken around the world by millions of people. It is one of the 6 official languages in the UN as well. And it is widely used in international business, diplomacy and media as well. Many organizations around the world require Arabic for things like marketing material, legal documents, websites as well, and additionally it is very commonly used and very in demand in the humanitarian sector, if I could say the word. So a lot of government agencies, non-profit organizations, educational institutions, refugee centers are very in demand for Arabic, not only for translation, but also for interpreting or humanitarian aid in general. And especially with your combinations, I've seen you mention Spanish. What was their French? Yeah, English, French and Spanish in combination with Arabic. If Arabic is your native, then French Arabic is very in demand, Spanish Arabic as well. So it's a great disposition to have these languages, so definitely go for it. Next one is from Cristian Estrada 5362. It's a very practical question. I have a question for anybody that uses Trados out there. If a segment in my target text ends up too long to stay within the same image as the source text, is there a way to modify the text size just in that segment? I think the only option is to edit in Word later, but perhaps there's a function within Trados that I don't know about. No, you are right, Christian. I assume you mean like if you have a text, let's say you have a square, a colored square with a text in there in the source text, and then you translate it in Trados and your target text becomes too long for that text box, right? It comes out of the box. You cannot edit that in Trados itself because Trados is not a design program, right? You have to do that afterwards. You anyways always, after working in a cut tool, you export it in the actual file format, right? Whether it's Excel, PowerPoint, Word, whatever it is, InDesign. And then you check the formatting and see if everything is okay. So you don't do that in the cut tool itself. You work on it in the editor, then you export it and you make the adjustments. What you can do in Trados that many people don't know, because the default text is relatively small, and depending on the size of your screen, it can be really small and hard to read. And if you go, I'm going to show a screen recording of it. If you go on view and then all the way to the right, you can actually increase the font size. But bear in mind, this is only a display function within Trados. So the text appears bigger on your screen, but it has nothing to do with the actual formatting. It doesn't make the text in the document bigger. So I hope that answers your question. You will always have to do the formatting on your own afterwards, but that's also good because you want to export it in Word, also to run again a spell check on there, right? Because a Trados spell check is sometimes a bit questionable. And you are delivering to your client a finished document. You don't deliver a Trados package, right? So it makes sense that you export it and check the formatting. Make sure to also incorporate this work afterwards into your word price, right? Or into your hourly rate, because that's, if you have a large document and you have to go through the formatting, that's again another, let's say, hour or two of work. So don't make the mistake to not calculate that into your price. Next up, Pandaman2105. He asks, hello Adrian, I've discovered your video and I feel like I'm finally on a path to the right steps of translating. Very nice to hear, first of all. I will probably start with SmartCat or something free. and beginner's experience, but my question would be, what exactly should someone start with to just learn as in type of work or document to translate? I'm thinking of just trying some old college essays, or should it be something smaller? That's all I can think of attempting, such as a paper on nanotechnology I translated into Italian long ago. I would love to get into CAD tool now and see how it really turned out. But what would you recommend for someone who wants to start playing with CAD tools for future job opportunities and learning to use them at your own pace? Thank you very much for that question. I took quite a lot of notes to answer that, so let me just pull them up quickly. So my advice here would be to translate as many shorter text as possible. I wouldn't go with a university paper that has like 20 pages, because what you want to do is you want to create a portfolio, right? So if you work on something for months because it's so big and you only have one thing to show for yourself, it can be interesting. You can really dive into a topic, but it's not very effective, not very productive. So I would rather take smaller text from different registers with different audiences as well to build a portfolio on your own. You mentioned nanotech, so I assume you have a special interest in that regard. Maybe you studied it. If that's the case, then really focus on that as your specialization, right? That's a great way to go. If you're already set on specializing in nanotech or tech in general, that's great. You're already far ahead of many people that are in the same shoes as you are. So in that case, I would focus on nanotech with different audiences in mind, so different registers. Once write something for experts, for the people in the academic field, for students, for kids, for lay people, etc. So you know how to adjust your language skills, language level, depending on who reads the article. In terms of CAD tool, you definitely took the right approach to start with a free server-based one. I would also do that. Another thing you can do is actually make use of the free trials of the big ones, right? All the big ones like MemoQ, Trados, Transit, BureauWorks, all of them have trial periods, usually like 1 month or so. So if you take them after each other, then you can work on many texts within different CAD tools for several months, right? So that's a great way to gain experience. I made videos on MemoQ and Trados, so I would suggest to watch them. Gonna link them up here so you can actually get the basics already with my videos and then start with the free trial so you know how things work. Next question from Magdalena Adarul 7357. Is language architect the same as a language specialist or a little more specialized? That refers to something I mentioned in a video previously, that I think language architect could be a new form of job in the future, right? It is kind of the same as language specialist. It doesn't exist yet, right? It's not a widely recognized job position yet, but it could become one in the future. Language architects would kind of take into account the structure of languages. Computational linguists, for example, work a lot with language structure already now. So if it has a lot to do with syntax, morphology. I don't know if these terms mean something to you. If they don't, I would suggest you look into that. Check what is semantics, phonology, morphology, etc. These are important things if you haven't studied linguistics at university, you don't really come across these things. But in the future, these structural language things could become more important as language specialists, language architects, etc. Next question from Nadia YZ Angli. Can I ask you a question? I've been told by my aunt that translating is a dead industry. Artificial intelligence has taken over and it's going to be so hard for me to make it. However, my only passion or my one passion in life is languages, and I can't think of anything else I'd be good at or talented with. And I want a career that I enjoy, of course. What's your advice on this? I'm scared of being stuck in a dead-end job and I want to use my passion and languages in my career. What is the best way to become a successful translator in this day and age? Wow, Nadia, a huge question to answer. I'm gonna do my best. First of all, with all due respect to your aunt, I highly doubt that she has any idea about the language industry, right? If not, then apologies, but I would assume that this is a stance that someone from the outside looking in would say, that it's a dead industry. Whatever you think of the future of translators, etc., one thing you can just say is demonstrably wrong is saying that language industry is a dead industry. It's just not true. Wow, a huge bird just landed in my window, sorry. I'm going to show a graphic here that I've just recently come across. The language industry this year is a $70 billion industry, and by 2028 it is prospected to become almost a $100 billion industry, right? So it's a huge, vastly growing industry. A sector that is prospected to grow 30 billion in the next 5 years is not a dead industry. So for me at least, I want to be part of that. I want to be in that. But for me, it is also a bit different because, or at least different from other people that I talk to, because I don't really have this emotional connection to our current profession as translator, right? Many people feel very invested by identifying themselves as a translator, and they say that if this position changes in a way, I'm out. I don't want to do that anymore. That's perfectly fine. That's a good stance you can take. It's very strict and stick to your values. And if changes, you change career. That's perfectly fine. The role as the translator of the 2010s and 2020s will obviously change, same as it changed in the 90s, 80s, 60s, etc. But if you are strict with yourself and you say the 10s and the 20s is what I am, a translator in this era, and then I'm out, that's perfectly fine. For me, that's not the case, right? I want to be in this industry some way or another, because I see it's becoming more and more important. The more globalized the world becomes, the language industry is growing, as I just said, and I want to be part of that. Now, this is where universities come in, right? Because around the world, the number of enrollments in translation degrees are falling rapidly. And that is a problem in a way. There are two school of thoughts there. In a way, it's a problem. You can also spin it in a bit more selfish aspect. You can spin it as a positive because it means there will be less competition for you if less people enroll, right? If you are fond of the translation industry, you don't look at it like this. But if it's a bit of a selfish question, then it can be a positive if less people enroll. Just saying. Why do less people enroll? Exactly for that reason that you mentioned. Your aunt says as well, the language industry is dying. People don't want to go into that anymore. So that's where universities come in. They need to either redefine and rename their whole program, which I'm not the biggest fan of, because I like studying a profession and not just some kind of modern languages stuff. Or if they don't want to rename, they need to really think about how to promote it, how to market their degree as language specialists over translators. My last video I made on this channel was about future-proofing your career. So if you decide to go into this industry, I would really recommend watching this video, because there are certain things, of course it's very personal, very luck-based as well, but there are certain things that you can do to facilitate that luck, that you will be successful. Success is a difficult word anyways, but let's say success as in being able to pay your bills and make more money to save as well, right? Let's call that success, because success is not a number. Success is very individual depending on where you live and what your standards are. But what's important here is what to keep in mind is it's not a dead industry, not at all. It's a growing industry. If you keep an open mind, if you don't feel too much emotionally attached to the term translator, and you feel okay to change and find your place within this industry, then it's definitely the perfect industry for you to be in if you are so passionate in languages as you say. If that's really the case, you will definitely make your way and pave your way in some way or another. And the last question from New Belarus 7047. Hello Adrian, hello Adrian actually. I'm really baffled with the question. How do I introduce myself or advertise my services if I'm not a professional translator? No university degree or even a certificate. I don't want to lie, and at the same time, who would trust work to an amateur? How to make a beginner with no translator credentials sound credible without lying? I would be so thankful if you can make a video on that. Thank you. The first thing I read through the lines with this question, I'm sorry if that's a bit harsh or if it's not true, but what I read is insecurity, a lot of insecurity. You keep referring to yourself as amateur, not qualified, no degrees, etc. So before you are confident in your abilities, and abilities doesn't have anything to do with degrees, right? You can be confident in your abilities without having a degree. Before you do that, before you are secure in yourself, before you've overcome this imposter syndrome, I would not go out there and charge your services to clients. Not even attempt it, because it's not going to work. So you mentioned you don't have a degree or a certificate. I understand with a degree it's hard, it takes a long time, it's expensive, it's not for everyone. But certificates nowadays are super easy and super accessible with online courses, right? I made a video all about online courses here. There are also colleagues of us that offer courses like Robert Gebhardt. He has a course about how to become a freelance translator. So all of these things can give you credentials in a way, well, it can give you a certificate and it can give you an idea of how the daily work and what you have to do as a translator. So it can be very beneficial. I would recommend you to do a certificate at this point. Next, what you need to do is create a portfolio. You say you don't have any experience. The great thing about creating a portfolio in our industry is that you don't need to be paid for it, right? It doesn't matter to your future client if your portfolio was paid or volunteer work or just practicing on your own. So you can go out, you can go online, find articles, find things that you're curious about, translate them, add them to your portfolio. If they're not confidential, of course, you can reach out to volunteer organizations to help them with translations as well and use that as your portfolio. So you can really create a vast experience without having any jobs. So that's a lot of work, but you need to put that work in. Then think about your specialization. If you don't have a degree, then specializations are even more important than they already are. Do you have experience in another field, for example? Have you been employed before? Do you have work experience in a certain sector? If you don't, if you've never worked before, that's also okay. Then think about your hobbies. Think about your interests. What do you do on a daily basis? What do you read about, listen to, watch videos about, documentaries, etc. You need to identify the one thing that you are more knowledgeable than the average person down the street, your neighbors, right? There's always something that you know more about than they do. Are you a rock collector, for example? Then consider going into geology, right? Are you interested in planes? Are you watching plane documentaries? Go into aviation or mechanical engineering. Are you really into theaters? Try getting a career as translator in the performing arts, etc. Once you identified that topic, go crazy about researching it, right? I would suggest nowadays to use AI for that. You can go on ChatGPT and say, hey, can you please give me the top 10 things to know about geology if I want to learn everything about that topic. Please also give me references for all these 10 points with academic papers. It will give you 10 points that you need to know if you want to specialize in this area. Look in a next step, look up all the 10 papers that it gave you as references, read all through these papers, learn more and more and more as much as you can to become a real industry expert in that field. It's a lot of work, but if you become an expert in that field, no one cares about your degrees, right? What do you think a mining industry company or a government agency or a geology faculty would prefer? Would they prefer someone with 4 to 7 years of university as a generalist, or someone with no university degree but a highly specialized geology translator? Actually, some people will answer that question differently, but for me, in my opinion, I can tell you they will definitely prefer the specialized person, right? So if you don't have the background of the degree, if you don't have an experience to show, you need to convince your clients by being the expert in one field. So it's a very long journey. You have to take a bit of a different approach than people with degrees, but it's definitely doable. Good luck with that. I hope this video is not far too long. I hope I can cut it down a bit, but these were extremely insightful questions. I hope I could give you guys some benefit with that. Make sure to ask your question down below so I can answer them in the next Q&A. That's probably going to be before Christmas and in a live format again. And I see you next Monday with the next video. Bye bye.